Hey, it's Lanier Richardson, and in this lesson we're going to talk about different ways to finance your business and the different types of investments. You know, when you start a company, you got to raise money, and there are different ways that you can do that. And so here we want to talk about a few of the different approaches. So what do we mean by different types of financing and different types of investments? There are a couple of major categories that I just want to touch on. First, there's equity. Equity is when you bring in investment capital into your company. You get money in exchange for selling an ownership interest in the firm. And it can take many forms, right? But it's all at a basic level, you're selling some ownership. The second major type of investment is debt. And unlike equity, which doesn't have an obligation to repay, debt does have that obligation. In theory, debt is cheaper than equity, and you got to pay someone back is sort of that risk-reward trade-off. But in equity, people are waiting on their return through dividends and maybe when the company's sold or there's some distributions, but there is no actual obligation to repay with equity. Whereas with debt, somebody's expecting to make an investment, to provide some capital. You're going to understand the terms of repayment, the principal amount of that debt, what the interest is, just those type of things, right? Another form of debt that is a little less formal is sometimes called accounts receivable, like a line of credit, or factoring even. And factoring is an interesting tool. It basically means you've invoiced your customer and you're selling that particular customer's invoice. The customer's promised to pay you in 30 or 60 or 90 days, but you need cash today. And you can sell those receivables to a factoring company. These factoring companies take the receivables and they say, essentially, ultimately, when my customer repays me, I'm going to repay you. And so they might advance 80% of the money before I even collect from the client. Now, ultimately, when the money does come back in from the client, the factoring company is going to get paid, and they're going to charge you often what is a pretty substantial fee. Another type of debt is SBA loans, and boy, they're good when you can get them. They are backed by the federal government, the Small Business Administration, that essentially agrees to guarantee a loan that's made by the bank. This type of program, in which there is a guarantee, makes a bank more likely to provide capital to your firm. The third type is a hybrid, debt and equity. In my business, I sometimes joke calling this dequity, right? A combination of debt and equity. And it's what some people call convertible notes. I like convertible notes. Essentially, what happens is someone lends you money as a loan. It's debt, but there's some form of promissory note that has essentially a component of it that says upon some event, like I'm raising money, or a year from now, it may actually convert into some type of equity. Finally, let me mention a fourth type of financing. It's hard to get, but it should at least be evaluated, and that's grants. Government agencies, state agencies, federal agencies, philanthropy, some corporate grants. There are a whole lot of programs out there. But, grants are non-dilutive capital. It's if you got to get equity, grants are equity without the obligation to repay and without giving up the ownership. So we've broken down. There's debt, there's equity, there's convertible debt, there's factoring, there's grants. These are just some of the types of financing that you can use to build your business. And in this lesson, we're going to go deeper and talk about various structures and various types of financing that you can use to grow.